everybody. Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? I hope you're having a fine Sunday. I can't wait to finally continue with this book. Considering we sadly missed out on last week. I'm kind of sad about that, but we're here now. We're here now. I feel like I moved my camera by accident or something. Okay. There we go. But I hope you guys had a great Sunday so far. And hi Lily. How are you doing? Did you get some sleep? Did you have some sleep before after your stream? Yes. 100%. Sure. I believe it. 100%. That did happen. How long? How much? Huh? How much did you sleep? Also, why can I not put this fucking bottle cap back on this bottle? There we go. Yo, Horn, how you doing? Hello. Alright. I'm doing alright. I'm happy I can finally continue with the book today because last week we I was too tired to really do anything, so we had no reading. But yeah, I'm glad today is gonna be reading, and then I don't know what we'll actually do after that. If we do some Genshin, if we do something else, maybe we'll start a new game. I don't know yet. We'll see how it goes. But I'm very much looking forward to finally continue reading with the book. We are like maybe 4 chapters away from finishing. So yeah, we have the next book already set as well. So you guys had fantastic day and you're chilling now. New horror movie, The Book. Right. I would watch it. 100%. Might even do a little bit of singing, you know? So we do some simple math, we can find out that 24 divided by 8 is 3, and if we take that 3 from targeted 8 hours, we get 5, and by adding an additional 3-hour nap, we get a potential 8 hour. Lily, did you only sleep like 3 hours? Are you trying to distract from that fact? It was 5 hours. Okay. That's a bit better. That's better at least. I think I got like a good 7 hours in, was up for like 2-3 hours, and then had another like 2-hour nap or something. The heat over here is just so much right now. I can barely, like, I can't sleep well in this heat. So it's been a bit of a struggle. I mean, this time, you know, Lily, this time you didn't fall asleep during community night. I fell asleep. Very interrupted sleep for only like 4 hours, but I did get a bit of sleep. Yeah, it's important you guys get enough sleep. So do I. I need to get more sleep, especially for tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be a big day. Like, I'm gonna be up for a long time tomorrow. I'm gonna do like 24 hours. I'm not gonna be streaming myself, sadly, because my PC cannot handle that game and streaming at the same time. But you know, I'll be joining Twin and Grimdy on an attempt of beating a record in Risk of Rain 2. So that might end up being like a full-on like 24-hour endeavor, which means I gotta be up and ready for that. It's gonna be a lot, but I'm very much looking forward to it. From what I heard now, we're supposed to start around 1 p.m. EST, so that's like 7 p.m. my time. So I hope I can get enough sleep until then. I'll just like sleep through it, I don't know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited to see how far we can bring that run and what we can do. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna do, as we always do, one chapter of the book today. How long is that chapter? Let's see. We can look at it. Okay. It is about... Okay. You guys are amazing. You are amazing. So it goes from 385 all the way to 416. So that's like 30 pages. We can easily do 30 pages today. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Also, going back to Lies of P stuff as well, I freaking loved the DLC. Holy shit, it was so good. Let me also once on streamer with a reading stream. Only gonna what you were saying. I mean, if you're especially like coming in through like halfway through a book, or you know, into a series, like a second book or a third book into a series, it's a bit hard to like try and keep up with it. And obviously, like, that's why I liked to keep all the reading streams I had archived on my Twitch channel for you guys to always go back and re-listen, or like, you know, catch up on stuff if you've missed some things. The thing is, Twitch changed some settings around. Oh my god, my hair. Twitch changed a few settings around or like changed some things where you can only have a certain amount of hours of content saved on your page. So we had to move the entire book library that we've read so far from Twitch over to YouTube. And we have like, I think, yeah, we have 37 videos up on that YouTube channel already of just reading. I don't know how much hours of content that is already, but it's a good amount of hours. Yo, what's up, Awayus? Hello, hello. Yeah, we have like a good amount of hours already on our YouTube channel. And well, it's gonna be more today, huh? After today, it's gonna be even more. Probably another like 2-3 hours. Because that's the thing, like usually we do one chapter, which now is about like 2-3 hours worth of reading, and then we're chilling, do whatever. Discipline only on sale. 3 units of motivation expires Monday. 2 packs of good intentions for tomorrow. A jar of patience, extra strong, please. A sachet of instant willpower. 6 cans of energy, caffeine free, doesn't count. 1 tub of self-confidence, chocolate flavored. Okay. Interesting. But I mean, we're like more than halfway at this point for our 8th book in the series, in our journey of reading. Mix up a book with a grocery list, damn. Happens, you know. I know a song of a German YouTube singer that did like a lot of like gaming songs and stuff like that. He did an entire song that is just the ingredients list of a shampoo bottle. He just sang out the ingredients list of a shampoo bottle. It's a good song. I was even thinking about it, doing it on stream at some point, you know. Some like karaoke. But actually, we might actually do some karaoke today. I don't know how we feel about it yet. But yeah, going back, like the Lies of P DLC was fantastic. I am so heavily debating to actually like download the PS5 version of Lies of P now and going through the whole game again on a new save file, because I cannot use my PS4 save file on the PS5 version. I don't think I'll do it on stream. We've had enough Lies of P on stream already. I've done two full playthroughs and the DLC. I think we've done enough lying of P on stream, but maybe I'll play it again off stream. New save file, PS5 version, and go for all achievements on there too. Get the platinum again on the PS5 version. Who knows? We shall see. But no, that game now, after the DLC dropped and we've played through it now, definitely is all the way up there now in my top 5 of all games that I've played. I loved it. It was challenging, obviously, as any Souls game DLC will be challenging. I did not breeze through like I did, like, I mean, I didn't breeze through stuff like the Dark Souls DLC and stuff as well. Both of them, Dark Souls 3 DLCs. They were tough. And so was Lies of P1. You did it easy. It took me 20 hours and hundreds of attempts on the final bosses. Not hundreds. It took me like a good 3 hours on the final boss or something, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. and it's all the way up there now. I'd say even compared to some FromSoft games that I've played, Lies of P ranks higher. A half day before rage quitting. Like, I would probably, I think Sekiro might actually be the only one that might rank higher, because I loved the combat in Sekiro. Like, don't get me wrong, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Dark Souls 3, which are the other 3 games I've played, are all fantastic games. But holy fuck, Lies of P blew me away. 100%. It blew me away. It was amazing. Yeah, we might do Celeste soon. Maybe today, after the book. Who knows? I don't know yet. Might just hop on some Genshin and Honkai. Maybe we'll just chill on some other games. Maybe I'll test out some Risk of Rain on stream, which probably will make my whole PC crash. I don't know. Because tomorrow is the big Risk of Rain day with a couple of friends. We shall see. But oh my god, as well, we've listened to all the soundtracks on stream. It's Genshin week. Maybe. We have listened to all the soundtracks on stream before, like all the DLC soundtracks of Lies of P. But oh my god, the music, the boss soundtracks, the records you can find, the songs that play there in the DLC. Oh, they were so good, so beautiful, so sad, very melancholic, very atmospheric. Who knew, you know, that Koreans can make music, right? Am I right? I never knew Koreans make music. It's a new concept, huh? Totally. I know the music in Celeste is also beautiful, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Celeste is a game I still want to play. I think I've only really done the first chapter of it on my own at some point. I never really got far into it. Or I think I beat the hotel. I don't know. So that's definitely going to be on the list. We're probably also going to do Sifu. Sifu is also going to be interesting. Yeah, Genshin 5.7 is coming out soon, so we're definitely going to be playing the new Archon quest with Dainsliv and all the fucking lore drops that's going to bring with us. Because even if I don't play the game as much anymore, like just playing it all the time, like I actually haven't logged in days on Genshin, or even in Honkai if I think about it. But Dainsliv, yeah, we're getting a new Dainsliv quest. That's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, I think what still keeps me going to go back to Genshin every once in a while is the story. I am heavily invested in that, and like the lore of the game, we're getting some juicy lore now. We're getting to like end of the game, like end of the, like pretty heavy lore stuff now, and I am so looking forward to see what the new story will bring. Any kind of like Dainsliv quest is always gonna be a lot of lore. So yeah, it's gonna be amazing. like the reruns we're getting as well. Like it's Shenhe, Emily, and Mawika. That's gonna be a stacked banner plus Skirk. I'm probably gonna skip on all of that. I think my next character I want, like I was thinking about maybe going for Mawika's weapon, but I don't think I'm gonna go for that for my Gaming now. But I might just gonna save for now until until Nilou gets a rerun. I might pull for Nilou next, actually. I'm surprised to see Shenhe on a rerun already because she was on the Chronicle banner. On the Chronicle. But hey, I'm probably not gonna pull for her anyway. In Honkai, I still need to catch up on the story, considering like I said, I'm only gonna do Amphorius until like I only did Amphorius until I had my E6 Turbolaser, and now I'm going through the story normally, so I'm just at the beginning of Amphorius. Now once we're done with Amphorius, once we're done with not Amphorius, Penacony, and then once we're done with Penacony, we can go into Amphorius. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I heard really good things about Penacony, so we shall see. It's easy these days, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, there was a 2.0 update. I can't blame you for that. It's a lot of things come in with a new version update like that. We should be like 1 or 2 patches away from 6.0 in Genshin as well. So that's gonna be when usually they do drop a new version around August or September. So it's probably like 5.7, 5.8, and then 5.8 might be the summer update. And then we might be close to 6.0. Who knows? It's gonna be a lot of fun. Hi Sable, how are you doing? Hello, hello. They bought me cat girls and bunny girls. What about you, husband? Yeah. I mean, the next Genshin update, Sable, will have Dainsleif's story. Like, Dainsleif is gonna be in the story again. I haven't even looked at the 5.7, what's the 5.7 live stream already? I think so, right? 5.7 special program. Did we have the special program yet? Yeah, 9 days ago. God damn. I haven't even watched it. But yeah, so yeah, 5.7 should be coming out this week. I don't even play right now. I'm so sad. I'll have enough wishes for him when his banner comes out. Well, he's not gonna be on 5.7 now. Maybe he's gonna be in 5.8 or 6.0. We'll see. Because we know for 5.7 it's Skirk, Shenhe, and then Mawika, Emily. And I was thinking about pulling for Emily's weapon, but it's also like my Emily is pretty good already. I have Kokomi now, and I feel like Nilou might be more of a priority now for me when it comes to using Kokomi in a good team that I want to make. And then in Honkai, I'm saving for Rappa now. I heard Firefly is getting a rerun actually very soon as well, but I'm actually gonna go for Rappa over Firefly. No matter what. So I have a bit more time to save, especially just now after I got a Goliath's Light Cone. I barely have any savings. I know a lot of people are gonna go for the Fate collab. Gonna go for Saber. I probably won't. I will get Archer. Obviously, because Archer is gonna be for free, but I'm not gonna pull for Saber. Saber and Sunday. Ooh. I'm towards the end of the Penacony quest. I am at the beginning of Penacony. Like, I'm in my first dream world in Penacony. That's where I'm at. Rappa rerun soon. I think she should get one soon as well, because I don't think Rappa had a rerun yet. But I don't know. Honkai is a bit weird sometimes when it comes to reruns as well. But yeah, I have to go through Penacony. I've done some parts of Emporius, but I still gotta play through most of Emporius, the newer parts, especially now. And yeah, I'll be most likely pulling for Rappa. I'm not gonna pull on anything else at this point because I need to save. Need to save. 120, I need more. I want to guarantee Saber and Sunday. Good luck on that, Sable. I was lucky to get Sunday and his Light Cone pretty quick into me starting out the game. That's for sure. The banner is new and clean on pity, so I have a chance. Ooh. I'm sure you'll get him. You get both of them. 100%. I'm due to lose a 50-50 again. I have won too many 50-50s recently. The game needs to punish me again. Hoyo needs to like drop some shit on me again. I don't know. I feel like my luck is gonna run out soon and I'm gonna lose a 50-50. Especially in Honkai. Like, getting Fugue on 70 pity on a 50-50, then getting Naxa on like 20 pity on a 50-50, getting Herta on like 20 pity on a 50-50. I'm due to lose, and then getting Kokomi on the Chronicle banner. Like, I'm due to lose again. I feel like I'm due to lose, and it's gonna hit me hard. It's not gonna be fun. It's gonna be another like Huohuo situation or something where I have to like grind my way through the game just so I can get enough pulls in the end to get it, but we'll see. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how many pulls I can save up until it gets a rerun. Defense rolls and artifacts I get. Yeah, no, my artifacts have been dog shit as well ever since I win my 50/50s. You're not the only one. Oh yeah, there's a new event in the Pokemon game, a community game going on, because I think they're celebrating their 5th anniversary now or something. So get your event Pokemons, guys. I'm definitely looking forward to Genshin's next story. We'll see when we get all the amazing voice actors back as well. That should also come in soon, I hope. I have to look more into what's going on there right now exactly. I haven't really kept up with a lot of things. I don't know what their situation is right now. I haven't kept up with a lot of things. Definitely need to look more into it again. But I think we're getting some of them back soon, and it's gonna be fun. I'm probably gonna be playing the next update again in Japanese, since most of the voice acting is probably still gonna be missing. Oop. But we'll see. Then sometime, I think end of this month, it's going to be another Monster Hunter update. We're getting title update 2 with Lagiacrus, so we're probably going to check that out as well, because I haven't been on Monster Hunter in a while. Yikes. We definitely got to go back with that. I'm very much looking forward to playing more of that again. Monster Hunter is still one of my favorite franchises. So, yeah. Long Monster. It's fun to finally see Lagiacrus in a newer game. I've never fought him, so it's gonna be nice. Someone who started with World and hasn't played any of the older games, it's nice that we're getting some more of the older monsters on a newer style. Steam summer sale soon, new things to play. If I can afford games, that is. What's this other game that a friend of mine kept notifying me about? I heard of it before, but I haven't really looked into it because I was like, okay, interesting concept, probably not my kind of game. It's a dating sim that's coming out soon called Date Everything, which, yeah, the concept's basically you get these magical glasses and yeah, with those glasses, you can basically talk to any object in your house, and they have like humanoid versions of them, and you can, you know, it's a dating sim. You can date them. After looking more into it, because somebody mentioned about some of the voice actors that are in there, like, the lineup for that game is fucking stacked. The voice actors in that game are ridiculous. Like, what? It's like half the Genshin cast is on there and some other like super big names. It's crazy. I played it. It looks so good. Like, the character designs are actually really creative and really cool. I just cannot afford that game right now as well. That would be a fun stream though, I would say. Like, that would be really fun to do on stream, you know. But we'll see. I think we can start with the book for today then, and then we shall see where we go from there. What we'll be doing afterwards. God, it is so warm in my room, guys. Somebody turn down the heat, please. Ah, it's awful. What does the weather say? Which floor? I'm living on the bottom floor. It's just fucking hot today, man. It's been like pretty fucking hot the past like 3 days. Right now it says it's 17 degrees Celsius, but it feels like more. My room is like really bad. Open window. My window is tilted open. It always is tilted open, so yeah. It just feels like it's way hotter. But it's okay. We'll get through this. Let's start with the book for today, I would say. We're at chapter 8 for this week. It's called The Girl, the Bird, and the Good Luck Ship. 1 second. There we go. Let's see. Part 1, we're start in an area called Hanas 9 years ago. Tezali Ranek had a wind-blown heart. That's what her mother always said. That her youngest daughter had been born with a breeze inside her. It was why she couldn't sit still, why she was always escaping out of open doors, why she was always in motion, churning through the halls of the house, playing in the shop below until her father couldn't stand her restless limbs, how near they got to the precious things on his fragile shelves, and he inevitably swept her from the shop and set her free until dark. That day, 6-year-old Thessaly had blown even farther from home, climbed up the cliff path, which was not a path so much as a ribbon of grass worn bare, a slippery road of shifting rock. But it was worth it for the view. A breeze was picking up, carrying the scent of a storm, but when she scanned the bay, she saw the clouds sitting like distant ships. Plenty of time, she thought, clambering up the last jagged slope. Hana's was a sea city, built along a series of rocky outcrops, big as giant stairs, that led up from the coast. The port sat in the bowl of the bay below, and the cliffs rose above, peaks trimmed with mossy soil. No one built along those cliffs. They said the rock was too feeble, too loose, prone to flaking off like pastry crust. But if that was true, she didn't see why they'd gone and put all the buildings right below. The cliffs would stay put, they insisted, as long as they were left alone. But little girls were lighter than houses, so Thessaly climbed, careful to avoid any stones that looked even a little loose. When she reached the top, she stood, hands on her hips, and beamed in triumph. As she'd conquered the city as well as the cliff, as if everything below belonged to her. "I am the Queen of Hanas," she shouted. But the wind stole the words, plucked them away like a ribbon from her hair, and she flopped down, breathless, in the weedy grass, and watched the ships come and go, their sails reduced to tiny white pennants. Thessaly settled back and stared up at the vast and open day until the air just above her eyes began to shimmer and move, like fingers rustling a curtain. It was happening again. She squinted, trying to refocus her vision, but the shimmer only sharpened, drawing lines until it looked like a sky and less like a sky and more like a tapestry. She waited for it to disappear. When it didn't, she squeezed her eyes shut, letting the wind pick up in her ears, in her bones, in her heart, and carry her away. Drip. A drop of water landed right between her eyes, and Thessaly blinked. She didn't remember dozing, but the day smelled different now, and when she sat up, she saw that the storm had swept in. No longer a shadow on the horizon, but a roiling darkness overhead, threatening to drip, 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 like a pipe about to burst. And sure enough, seconds later, the drizzle became a downpour, and she was up, half running, half sliding down the slope, as dirt turned to mud and the pebbles skittered beneath her shoes and the rain crashed down, her vision blurring in the storm until it didn't look like drops at all, but 1,000 tiny filaments of light. She shook her head, tried to make her eyes work right as she raced home. By the time the path became a street again, and the ground turned from packed dirt to cobblestone, she was soaked through, her curls slicked against her face and neck, her dress clinging to her legs. Thessaly passed the shop window, caught her reflection in the glass. She looked wild and wind-made and mad, and the sight made her smile. She ran on, slowing only when she saw the sign. That sign, stamped in metal instead of wood, so it shone even now in the middle of the storm. On ir ales, it announced in glinting gold. One of a kind. Their housemaid, Esna, was standing on the steps, her face blooming red with anger, and she caught Thessali's arm and hauled her past the entrance to her father's shop and through the second door to the one that led up into the house above. Of all the foolish things, she muttered, and Thessali knew from experience that it was better just to let the woman fume like a kettle until she ran out of steam. She was forced to strip right there, at the top of the stairs, leaving her soiled clothes beyond the entry to the house, and then Esna carried her through, past glass cases and dark wood cabinets and closed doors. 4 daughters, ranted Esna, and each with less sense. And with that, she dumped her unceremoniously into the bath. Her fork scraped softly against the dinner plate. Thessali fought the urge to fidget. Esna had put her in a stiff dress which felt like a punishment, and her curls had been wrestled back into a plait. The braids so tight she was getting a headache. She caught her reflection in the hall glass. She looked like a doll. Like your mother, Esna sometimes said, which was supposed to be a compliment, she knew. Her mother was pretty in a fine-boned way, refined. The picture of an Ostra, a noblewoman of Arnes. Her father, on the other hand, had a face like a crow, a pointed nose and small sharp eyes, and a head that swiveled, necklace on his shoulders. When her sisters were still at home, Mirin would do an uncanny impression, and Rosanna would dissolve into laughter, and only Saraval, who resembled him the most, would scowl and say it wasn't funny. Thessali missed her older sisters. She hadn't always gotten along with them, but the house felt hollow without them in it. Funny how a place could feel empty when it was so full of things. Her father's collection grew up out of the shop below, climbed like weeds into every corner of their house, which wouldn't be so bad, except she wasn't allowed to touch any of it. Not because the things he owned were fragile, half were already broken in some way, but because they were valuable. And according to her father, valuable things had to be protected, kept behind glass so their worth could grow. Not that any of it was forbidden. Everyone knew Fortin Ranek didn't deal in forbidden magic. He was too proud. He had no interest in the dangerous and the obscene. Leave that to Sassenroth, he said. No, he was a curator, one who specialized in the precious and the rare. Now and then Thessali's father would give her an appraising look, the same one he leveled at a piece brought in to be sold. She knew he was waiting to see what she was worth, to find her value and make use of it, as he had done for his other daughters, her sisters. There was Mirin, made rare by her beauty, the diamond of Hanas, they called her. 18 and so striking, men came from all 3 empires to bid for her hand. Carried off by an Arnesian old enough to have gray hair and installed in a manor up north. Then Rosanna, made rare by her powers. By 10, she could wield not only fire, but ice. By 14, she was gone, the star of a performing troupe, though Thessali knew she dreamed of winning the Essentage. And Saraval, the oldest, made rare by her cunning. Not sold off, but sent away all the same to be her father's eyes out in the world and find new things for his collection. 3 sisters gone, 3 chairs sitting empty at the table. Her parents talked as if they were already 4, and Thessali thought she might die of boredom. Her plate was clean, but she couldn't leave, not until she was excused. A taper burned in front of her, and as her parents spoke, she let her vision slip, gaze sliding in and out of focus until the little flame seemed to peel itself apart, dividing into strands as thin as hairs. She was certain that if she reached out, she could catch one. So she did, forgetting that it was a trick of the eye, that the light only looked like threads, that it was in fact still fire. Her hand went into the flame, and a searing heat tore through her fingers. Thessaly yelped and pulled back, and for the first time that night, she had her parents' attention. "I didn't mean to," she said quickly, clutching her burned fingers. "I was reaching for the salt." Her father shook his head, but her mother only stared, an odd expression on her face. She'd seen Thessaly do it, knew she hadn't reached past the taper but straight into it. Her mother put her knife down and rose. "Come," she said. "Let's put some salve on that." She took Thessaly by the unburned hand and marched her into the kitchen. She didn't say anything else. Not as she found the pot of salve, not as she set Thessaly down and rubbed some of the cold mixture into Thessaly's fingers. But when it was done, she caught Thessaly's eyes. They had the same eyes, the brown flecked with bits of green and gold, and asked, "Why did you do that?" 1 second. Thessaly chewed her cheek. "I thought I could touch it." "The fire?" She shook her head. "The threats." Confusion traced itself across her mother's face. "What threats?" Thessaly nodded at the hearth. The fire there shot through with strands of light. Though the truth was, she'd seen them in the surface of the table too, and in a basin of water, and in the pot of salve. Oh wait, skip the page, there we go. "Don't you see them?" she asked, and when her mother shook her head, Thessaly felt a small triumphant flare. At last she had something of worth. At last she would matter. But the look in her mother's eyes wasn't pride, it was fear. And that's when Thessaly realized whatever was happening with her eyes, it wasn't a common ability, an ordinary gift. It was rare, just like the things her father traded in. And Thessaly knew he didn't keep the best things for himself. He sold them off to the highest bidder. Her mother knelt before her and grabbed her hands hard, ignoring the burns. "When?" she demanded. "When did that start?" Thessaly shook her head. She didn't know. It was less like a fire being lit and more like the sun coming up, a brightening so gradual that she hadn't noticed, not at first. And then one day, she couldn't not, because every object seemed to have an aura, a faint glow, like the lanterns on the docks with the fog, when the fog hung low. Night. Only it wasn't night, and it wasn't just the lanterns that glowed, it was everything. And then, of course, she hadn't realized it was strange. After all, how was she supposed to know what others saw? But the look in her mother's eyes said enough, and the fear in her voice said the rest. "You mustn't tell," she whispered, her face so close to their foreheads, almost touched. And then Thessaly's mother dragged her to her feet and marched her back into the dining room with its empty chairs. "Silly girl," she said, smiling at Thessaly's father. "Always dreaming." Thessaly took her seat and said nothing. That night in her room, she sat on the floor, legs crossed, and studied the taper she'd brought with her to the bed. Watched as tendrils pulled away from the fire and twisted through the air. The pain in her fingers had cooled, but now she reached out again, felt the warning heat against her palm as she grazed the flame, careful not to touch it. Instead, she waited for the thread to waver and ripple, bend away from the fire, and when it did, she caught it. It pulsed, hot between her fingers and her thumb, but it didn't burn. She pulled just a little, expecting resistance. Instead, the flame unraveled and went out. For a moment, the thread lingered, glowing like an amber in her hand, and then dissolved. She smiled in the dark, then relit the candle and tried again. Now we're jumping 2 years ahead, 7 years ago, part 2. Her father's shop was full of wonders, books so old she couldn't read the spines, a letter to her king in another world, a head sculpted in marble from an artisan in Vesk, a painting made of 100 separate panes of layered glass, a map of the Pharaoh's straws, a scrying bowl, its polished surface spelled to show not the future but the past. Stepping up for groceries. Event spawns? Yes, we have a new event on the Pokemon. Hi, Slothy. How's your day? I hope you can get all the groceries you need. Hope you have fun reading. We just started. We're like in part 2 of the chapter. That sounds so. Aww, I can't imagine. I need to get the fuck out of the house. Yes, you do. Get your groceries. Get all the stuff you need for your friends. Food needs to food. I need food. Yes, food is important. You need to food. No bread in fridge. Oh my god. Do not put your bread in the fridge, girl. You and your fridge bread. It's ridiculous. Instructions unclear. You know, you take your bread and you don't put it in the fridge. You put your other like fruit and vegetables and milk and stuff in the fridge, but do not put your bread in the fridge. Storing bread and garbage. So I actually, not gonna lie, I watched a video about it. So the reason actually you don't want to put bread in the fridge is because it actually becomes stale faster than when it's out on the table or in a bread box. If you want to actually make it more, yeah, exactly. Like, I forgot what the name was of the reaction, but it causes like a chemical reaction which makes the bread go stale faster because it loses moisture faster. If you want to keep your bread fresh for longer, slice it up and put it in the freezer. If you know you're not gonna eat it in like a day or two, you're actually keeping it you can actually keep it longer in the freezer than in the fridge. And then like if you need them, take like the slices out, toast them or something, and you got some bread. But you're better off actually putting them in the freezer than in the fridge. In the fridge, they actually go stale faster. To be fair, I always knew, I think I always knew already that like it gets stale faster, but I wanted to make sure. Even just for myself. No, I don't hate you. I care for you so you don't get your bread. Like, so you don't just end up with stale bread faster and you have to buy new bread and you don't eat like moldy bread. I don't want you to eat moldy bread and get sick. I want to make sure that you can keep it longer. It is your body. If you want to get mold in your body, I guess you do you. But I would like for you to not
I will
do that.
send you to Jesus.
I would like for you to not do that and actually take care of your body. And a good way to do that is do not put your bread in the fridge. Put it in the freezer instead if you want to keep it for longer. Yeah, I'm sorry that I am so entitled to making sure that you're gonna be healthy. You know, I know it's such big entitlement. Just lectures. You know, the last two Pokemon. No, wait. I think it switches up, right? We've had. No, we had 2 event spawns in a row. I've been arrested, put in Advale. No, Rip Sable. Yeah, Slothy, I care for you. To switch up. All right. I was even like, when I was looking through it, I was even like thinking about, do I just send you a link to one of those videos that I was watching just just to let you know? It's like, here, this is why. I just forgot what the term was, like the scientific term that they used. Not a video call out. Aww. Okay. I looked it up again. The term is retrogradation. I need a bread box. Or again, slice the bread up and put it in the freezer. If you want to keep it for way longer, like in the freezer, you can keep it for like a month. And a bread box is like 3-4 days, maybe, if it's like really fresh bread. But in the freezer, it can stay longer. I'm in retrograde all the time. Yeah, retrogradation. It says here, where the starch molecules in the bread recrystallize, becoming harder and drier. Refrigeration accelerates this process, causing bread to stale faster than at room temperatures. You silly. Yeah, Sure, that too. The moisture inside the fridge can also cause more molding easily. So, yeah. Like the best way is really just like put it in like a Ziploc bag, cut it up, like cut the slices, put it in a bag where it's like tight, airtight, or like just no moisture coming in, and then, you know, put it in the freezer if you want to keep it longer. Oh my god, Slothy, no. No crying here now, please. Aww. Slothy, no. Poor girl. More moisture. No. Slothy. Don't do that to me. I'll get you some tissues for it. You know how much I care for you. And I just want to make sure that, you know, you don't have to like worry about the bread going stale too fast and all that stuff. We love you, Slothy. Yippee! Is it raining outside? Let me check something. No. Kind of just sounded like it would be raining, but nope, no rain. Just heat. I'm dying. All good, Slothy. If you gotta go, you gotta get your shopping done. It's all good. Please take care of that. I'll be here for a while. We kind of just started with the book, and then I don't know what we'll be doing afterwards. Maybe we do a little bit of karaoke. Sing like a couple of songs, who knows? Funny, Sable. Haha. I never actually had a Subway sandwich. We have like 2 Subways in town, but I never went there and grabbed the sandwich. All right. Let's continue with the book. Where were we? Right here. A scrying bowl, its polished surface spelled to show not the future, but the past. A frosted glass orb that could hold a person's voice. It was a maze of cabinets, a winding corridor of glass cases and wooden chests, easy to get turned around when you couldn't see over the tops. But whenever Tess got lost, she stood on her toes or on the table and searched for the glorious bird. You aren't missing much, they're overpriced. You can make the same thing at home, better and cheaper. Yeah, most likely. I don't know. When it comes to like fast food stuff, I usually either just take like KFC or Burger King. I just never really was that interested in Subway. No more playing the victim for now. Take care, Slothy. Be safe. Hopefully you can get all the ingredients, all the groceries you want. Love you too. All right. Whenever Tess got lost, she stood on her toes or on a table and searched for the glorious bird. The bird sat on a pedestal at the heart of the shop, like the center of a compass, its vivid green feathers catching the light, golden crown visible over the chests and shelves. Tess found it and hopped down, heading in the right direction. On her way, she passed a narrow chest, its contents shrouded despite the angle of the nearest light. But Tessali had memorized the contents. A scrap of paper written in the true language of magic, the broken hand of a small sculpture, a piece of stone that once made up the gate between worlds when the doors were open. Relics from Black London. Oh, what? That's not good. Tessali didn't like the items in that case. They had no threads, but the air around them wasn't empty. A thin rim of shadow surrounded each object, the opposite of the halos that formed around lanterns at night. Once, and only once, she'd opened the cabinet, reached in to touch them. Not the objects themselves, but the darkness that fuzzed the space to every side. At the time, she'd felt nothing. But it was a bad kind of nothing. A wrong kind of nothing. And she found herself rubbing her hands together for hours after, unable to get them warm. Her father claimed they weren't forbidden, these objects, that they were pieces of history, and history had worth, and yet he never sold them. Never even showed them. She wondered if he forgot that they were there, buried in a maze of the shop. She tried to forget, but she always seemed to find the darkened case. She turned her back on it now and focused on finding the glorious bird. It had been in the shop as long as she could remember. Once it had been as large as Tessali, but then she kept growing and it did not. And now she was the larger. Still, it was magnificent. Too big to fit in any of the cabinets, and so it perched on top, watching over the precious contents of her father's shop. It was, according to him, extinct, the last of its kind, and so perfect, and so the perfect emblem of Ir Ales. But it wasn't the bird itself that captivated her. It was the way it moved. As she stepped into its line of sight, the bird ruffled its feathers and stretched its wings. Its head twitched, eyes craning down at her, its beak clicking softly. It moved through these small, predestined motions, guided by a delicate network of magic that wove through the air above its wings, around its feathered body, between its taloned toes. It had disappointed her once, to learn it was only imitating life. But it was before she could see the threads that animated it. Now Thessaly marveled at the sheer complexity of the magic. She reached up and plucked one of the glowing strings that coiled in the air as if it were an instrument, and the bird answered by lifting slightly, as if it's about to lurch into flight. This was not one of its set motions. This was something only she could make it do. Thessaly! Her father's voice should have gotten tangled in the maze bent around the cabinets and cases in the way, but it didn't. It had a way of cutting straight through space. Her hand dropped from the bird and she remembered her errand. She crouched, opening the cabinet that formed its perch, and pulled out the coin chest, hurrying back to the front of the shop. The maze never seemed to catch her on the way out, the way it did on the way in, and in moments, she was there. Her father stood waiting with his customer, an older man, his silver hair pulled back in an elegant braid. They were talking about London, everyone was, and the tide of cursed magic that had spilled through the streets the week before. Some thought it was a spell gone wrong, others an assault. After all, the king and queen were dead, but that wasn't what her father cared about. We'll soon have one of Maxime Maresh's swords, he was saying, and Kisimir's tournament mask. I have a collector in the city. She knew he meant Saraval. Thessaly's attention went to the counter between the two men, where something thin and sharp-edged waited beneath the sheet. She tried to guess at what it was that her father plucked, as her father plucked the coin box from her hand. My youngest, he said to the customer. She has a way of getting lost inside her head. The other man offered her a smile. The world needs dreamers. Does it? Her father asked dryly, his eyes landing on her as the birds had, shrewd and dark and searching. Her dad's kind of a dick. What the fuck? Yeah, Tess's father is a fucking dickhead. He only cares about the shop and the relics and not about his fucking daughter. Only what worth she would have. What the fuck? But okay, that's good to know. We're now like about 2 weeks after the events of the book, of the third book right now in this time. Okay. Indeed, continued the customer, you have dreamers to thank for half the wonders in your shop. The father smiled tightly, but as he began counting at coins, she knew it was what he was thinking. What use was a dreamer without magic? Thessaly retreated to the table where she'd been when the customer came in. She climbed back onto the stool and stared down at the element set that sat open, waiting as it did every day, because every day her father ordered her to practice. The night before, she had heard him talking with her mother. Powerless, he'd called his youngest daughter, spat the word like a curse. Her mother had soothed him and said that the new king had no magic, reminded him that he had been blessed 3 times already with powerful children, and that the world sought balance, as if Thessaly were a tithe to be paid the cost of other blessings. She heard the shop bell chime as the customer left, but she didn't look up. She squinted at the pieces and moved her lips and pretended to have no power over any of them, even though that wasn't strictly true. As far as she could tell, She had no elemental magic. She couldn't make something from nothing, couldn't conjure flame from the bead of oil, or whip up wind to move a pile of sand, or control the bit of bone. But if someone had lit the oil, she could have pulled the burning drop into any shape, transformed it into a raging fire or a delicate ribbon of flame. She could have turned the water to ice by tugging on its threads, or shaped the earth into a ring. She could have pulled on the strings of the wooden box itself and turned it into a bracelet, a mug, a sapling. She could see the very fabric of the world and all the magic in it, and touch each and every string, unravel the patterns and remake them, and... "You're not even trying," scolded her father. Thessaly bristled, and in that moment she wanted to tell him everything, to show him what she could do. Maybe then he would look at her the way he did at Serval or Rosanna or Myrene, with pride instead of expectation. But every time she felt the urge well up, she remembered the fear in her mother's face, remembered that her sisters were all gone, that if she told the truth, her father would not love her. He would sell her. "Come here," he ordered, and Thessaly abandoned the set and the stool and returned to the counter as her father pulled a sheet from the newest piece of his collection. It was a mirror. Of course it was not an ordinary mirror. Her father did not bother with ordinary things, and she could see the magic twining around the frame, tracing a second pattern over the silver edging. But before she could read the meaning in it, he told her. "Some mirrors show the future," he said. "Some mirrors show the past. Some can show you what you want, others what you fear. A few will even show your death." Thessaly shivered and hoped this was not one of those. "But this mirror," he went on, running a hand down the silver side, "this mirror reveals what you are capable of. It shows your true potential." Thessaly saw her eyes widen in the glass, and her father mistook her expression for eagerness and smiled. He did not often smile, and it looked wrong, unnatural. "Now, my little dreamer," he said, "what are you worth?" It was a question he posed to every item in the shop, to each piece as it joined his collection. A question he asked softly, almost reverently, speaking not to the seller, but to the object itself as he took it in hand and set it on his shelf. "What are you worth?" I hate this guy. The fact he only is thinking about the worth of his kid instead of, actually caring for her. What the fuck is wrong with him? And he had 4 kids? I mean, he already sold off 3 of them basically, but what the fuck? Fear prickled across Thessaly's skin as he took her wrist and dragged her closer to the glass. Fear, also relief. She was tired of hiding who she was, what she could do. Now she had no choice. The mirror would expose her, and would know the truth, and it would not be her fault. Her father pressed her hand to the surface of the glass. It was cold to the touch, steam instantly forming around her small fingertips. But as she watched, the steam grew and spread, fogging over the entire pane of glass, erasing the shop and her father, but not her. Thessaly stood there in the center of the silver frame, and then the frame disappeared, and she stood alone, no longer in her father's shop, but on a street she didn't know, in a bustling city. She tried to look around, but before she could take it in, the streets and the buildings around her began to unravel, became 1,000 threads. She moved, and the threads moved in answer, rippling away and then drawing in. She reached out and ran a hand along them, as if they were harp strings. And they did sing. They sang in color. They sang in light. She could feel the power in each and every one of them, the potential. She flexed her fingers, and they splayed, pulled, and they came, gathering between her hands. She looked down, and in the space between her outstretched palms, the threads coiled faster and tighter until they became shapes. There, between her hands, a box, a bird, a blade. There, a house, a tower, a palace, a road. There, a city. There, a city crumbled, dissolving like a castle made of sand. There, a dead man rose, like a puppet drawn back to life. There, a river of light overflowed its banks and drowned the world. After this last, the threads spilled out, past the bounds of her hands, arced around her until she was standing in another frame. No, not a frame, a doorway. And then the threads turned black. They recoiled, turned back on her like a wave, crested up on her head. She held her breath as they came crashing down over her, into her, coiling around her limbs, her body, her face, until they swallowed her up and she was gone. Thessaly recoiled from the glass, and as she did, the visions dissolved. And she was back in the shop, heart pounding in her chest as the mirror became a mirror again. Her father stood behind her, gripping her shoulders, as if she could feel the greed in his touch. But then he said, "What did you see?" And Thessaly realized that the reflection had been hers and hers alone. Her secret was her secret still, to share or to keep. But how could she tell him what she had seen? What had she seen? What did it mean? Well, he pressed, and so she told him. "I see myself there," she said. "With you." It was the truth. The kind of truth, at least. After all, it was what she saw right then. She mustered a smile as she said it, as if she would be happy with that future, as if either of them would. Her father let go of her shoulders. He took up the sheet and cast it back over the mirror. She was still looking at the glass, so she saw the disappointment scrawled across his face right before the cloth came down. I hate her father. I fucking hate this guy. Bro, your daughter is not an object you can sell. She's your fucking daughter. Treat her like a fucking daughter and not like an object.
How much are you worth, huh? Can I make money off you? Otherwise, you're useless to me.
Dog shit. Hate him. Alright. Part 3. Now we're jumping to 3 years ago. Thessaly ran cursing the slippers as they slipped and skidded on the pebbled road. Her mother made her wear them, since she insisted on acting like a chicken out of its pen and not a girl of 12. She thought the cursed shoes would discourage her from running, but they didn't. Whenever her parents sent her on an errand, she ran, getting to the butcher or the baker or the bank, and half the time just so she could cut through the dock market on her way home. Thessaly lived for the dock market, the makeshift stalls that popped up overnight like mushroom caps along the port, tables made of crates, tents conjured out of tarp, manned by sailors who came to sell whatever wares or trinkets they'd come by at their travels. Not the meat of their work, but the trimmings, of course. But the trimmings. Of course, her father scorned the market, insisted there was nothing here of any worth. But she marveled at the array gathered from the far corners of the empire, and sometimes even farther. It was easy to forget how large the world really was. Living in Hanaz. She had only been outside the port city once, a half-day's trip by carriage south to see Rosanna perform, the youngest member of her troupe, and so clearly destined for great things. A future victor of the Essentage, her father used supreme, before the Vescan prince, killed the Arnesian queen, carving a trench in the treaty between the three empires and ending the tournament for good. Most days, Thessaly just came to look at the wares and imagine the places from which they came. But today, as she surveyed the stalls, a large roast and a satchel slung over her arm, the purpose of her trip, and a month's petty change in her pocket. She was on the hunt for a prize, a gift. It was her father's birthday, and though he was by no means a sentimental man, he had decided that 50 years was a number worth marking, and her mother saw it was a chance to call her daughters home. Marine and Rosanna were already there unpacking their gifts, and Serval was bound to arrive any minute. Thessaly gave a quick, nervous scan of the docks, unsure if she could come by land. If she would come by land or sea, it would no doubt bring something grand. She always did. It was the nature of her work to find precious things, and Thessaly was determined to find something too. She moved along the line of stalls, eyes skimming here, grazing there, unsure what she was looking for, but sure that she would find it. And then she did. Most of the stalls had at least one bit of faulty magic among their wares, the spellwork fraying or fractured in ways they couldn't see. But on the table, everything seemed to be broken, from the glass balls, which should have been able to capture a season, to the heating stones, which should have boiled the water where they were sitting in, to the ship prisms, which would have turned colors to warn of coming weather if they had worked at all. A man sat on a crate behind the table, whittling something with a blade the size of his thumb. He had dark skin and black hair twisted into robes, each one ornamented by a bit of silver and a thin tendril of blue magic that twined in the air around his shoulders. As she watched, he cut a notch too deep and a piece of wood split in his hand. "Never been good at whittling," he muttered, tossing the stick into the surf. And yet, he took up another bit of wood and started again. Cut 3 slices before he looked up and saw her studying the wares. "Something you want?" he asked, his voice full of salt. The table was cluttered, but she nodded, picking up one of the orbs. He had 3 for winter and 2 each for fall and spring, but the one she chose was a summer glass. "How much?" she asked, then held her breath. She only had 6 lin, and a working season's glass would have cost twice that, and even if it wasn't the kind of thing her father would put in his shop, he was always complaining of the cold, and she thought he'd like it, this palm full of warmth. "2," said the sailor, and she had to bite down to hide the smile. Her father was always saying she should never let her feelings reach her face. She reached in her pocket, pulling out 2 lin. "Just so you know," he added, "it's broken." That was very honest of him, she thought, when most of the sailors would tell you a plank of wood was a golden sword, if it would make you buy the block. She put the 2 coins on the table and said, "I know." She did not say that she could see the exact spot the threads had frayed. It wouldn't be hard to fix. As she was slipping the broken orb gingerly into her satchel, the sailor did a series of odd things. First, he finished whittling the bit of wood into a tiny pipe. Then, he produced a small articulated skeleton of an owl from somewhere around his feet, set it on top of the table, and put the pipe in its beak. Infernal Blood Rose, thank you for the follow, I appreciate it. I hope you're having a good day. The sailor smiled, amused. Thessaly stared in wonder. "How much for that?" she asked. "The pipe?" "The owl." He glanced up, studying her. "It's not magic," he said. And it wasn't. There were no threads of spell work, broken or whole, no signs of any craft running through this little bird, only silver wire, holding the bundle of bones together. He gave the owl a long, appraising look. 5, he said. Hi, Bloodrose. How are you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. 4, countered Tisali. This your bestie? Aww. I appreciate that, Crystal. I appreciate you bringing them over. Yo, B, what's up? I'm doing all right. Bit hot here, bit sweaty, but looks great. We're doing well. How have you been, man? So go check you out. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, Crystal, for doing that. And you didn't have to. I always appreciate it. Check him out hard. As good as one can be. Yeah, no, like I struggled falling asleep because it was too hot, and I woke up and it was like I heard like a rumbling in the background. It was like a bit of a storm. There was rain going on, so it kind of like cooled down, which was nice. I got another bit of rest in there. She didn't tell me I didn't ever. Well, now you know. That all started with the reading because people have been obsessing with my voice for some reason. We've been doing this for a year now. But it's not reading, so he has a German. that is true. I am originally, like, I am German. English is my second language. But yeah, so on my normal like gaming streams, when I don't read, because it's a bit of a distraction for the reading streams, it would like take away the flow. I have it off, but other than that, yeah, I have a redeem where I just have to talk German for 2 minutes. Struggling, but you're doing great, Crystal, despite your situation. So who knows? Usually we do 1 chapter a week on the books, so we're like halfway through this chapter. Yeah, we're about like halfway through this chapter, so maybe after the book, when I go to gameplay, I'll activate it again and you'll hear me talk German. I don't know. Maybe you stay for this. I can't make you stay. That's up to you. All I can do is do my usual stuff. Four, countered Tisali, but he must have seen the wand in her eyes and shook his head. Her heart sank. I don't have 5. He shrugged, as if it wasn't his problem. She chewed her lips, searching her pockets as if the coins might multiply. Then her hands went to her hair. It was pulled up, as it always was, wrangled and pinned with a clasp. She freed the clasp and her hair with it. A cloud of brown curls spilling down around her shoulders. The clasp itself was nothing much, but there was a silver bauble on it. She pried it free and added it to the 4 coins in her palm. Not to be a narcoleptic and pass out again. I've been doing it all. Hey, if you fall asleep, that is fine. I always say, especially these reading streams are definitely more of like, you know, a background noise kind of thing, where you could just have it up in the background. You don't really have to look at any of that. Like, I don't really need to have a camera on. And that too, people fall asleep to it. You know, they use it to get some rest in, some naps. That's why I usually do it this late. Because you also have to consider, I live in Germany. The time zones are different. Like, I'm starting these streams at 11 p.m. my time. And then we go until like 2 a.m. or something. So that's like a good time for a lot of people. even like in the US, like 6 hours apart, 7 hours apart, whatever, to you know, just unwind from whatever they were doing, work, school, and just have something relaxing on in the background. You don't have to look at my face. You don't have to look at what I'm doing. It's not interesting. I'm literally just sitting here having the book physically in my hand, reading it. So yeah, it's just nice little background noise. Look at that handsome face. So it's not that great. What are you talking about, Crystal? It's ugly. But yeah, absolutely. Like, I would not blame you if you would fall asleep. If you need to get some rest, if you're getting tired, or if you actually do suffer from narcolepsy and you just fall asleep, that is totally fine. Oh my god. I'm not. What the hell? You know, I could just do this. And we good? Should we just go back to what I had before, where I just had my little like reactionary image on there, or like one of my emotes? Do I even still have that here somewhere? I might have to add that again. I don't think I have my reactive image anymore. Totally just didn't get her here to get I mean, yeah, I don't think I have that anymore, huh? Oh, damn. I mean, I got bigger cam, but no. This is fine. But I'll slap you for calling yourself ugly. Take it back. Make me. What are you gonna do, huh? Again, like, ugly. All right, can we just, you know, the focus is the book, not me. We're here for the book. You know, I could just read like this. You guys can't see my face. Would this be better? You know, I could just put my mic like this, have the book propped up like this. Not better. Well, that's too damn bad now, is it? I mean, the book is pretty, not gonna lie. It is, yeah, it's a very pretty looking book. And we're almost done with it as well. That will be our 8th book that we finish. Yeah, let's see, where are we at? Pride of Brienne added it to the 4 coins in her palm. Fell down my stairs because my legs stopped. No, oh my god, I hope you're okay. That's not good.
Right.
Rose, please be careful. Maybe I should keep the cam off for Rose's safety, huh? I think that's a valid reason to keep the camera off so Rose can be safe and not get distracted. Don't we guys all agree on that? I think that's a very, very valid reason. I don't want Rose to hurt herself. Someone is making. No, I am concerned for your guys' safety. I want to make sure nothing is happening to you guys. And if that means I have to take off the camera so people don't get distracted and fall down some stairs or something, that's just what I have to do, huh? I think it's fair. Slide down the stairs instead. God, I haven't done that in a while, but it's always fun. Yeah, please be careful. I don't want you to hurt yourself now. I care for you guys. The sailor considered. She held her breath, and then he reached for the little bird and plucked the wooden stick from its beak. That will buy you the hour, he said, with no pipe. I've been so sleepy. Oh my god. You gotta get some sleep, please. Please take care of yourself. Get some good rest. Okay. They'll buy the hour, he said, but no pipe. She could have thrown her arms around the sailor then, but she didn't. Instead, she handed him the payment and swept up the dead little bird into her arms before he changed his mind. She watched him pocket the coins and slipped a bit of silver into his own hair. And then she turned and ran all the way home. For the first time in years, there was no empty chairs at dinner. Fortin Rannick's 4 daughters were all home and sat arranged around his birthday table, as fine as prizes in their best clothes and done up like dolls. One day at the dog market, Thessaly had seen a set of nesting wooden figures. The sailor showed her how they fit, one inside the other, each painted with a different face. Yeah, please get some good rest soon. Ever since, that was how she thought of her sisters. It didn't help that there were exactly 4 years between each, a set of descending stairs from 24 to 12. The 4 Rannick girls were different in almost every way. They ranged in age and height, in beauty and in mood. Even their eyes, which spanned from amethyst, Rosanna, to hazel, Saraval, to brown, Thessaly, to almost black, Marine. The only thing they had in common were their curls, and even those didn't grow the same on all 4 heads. Saraval's grew in loose, dark waves and were somehow always rested back into a plate, sleek and groomed. What is this book? This book is called The Fragile Threads of Power. It's a fantasy novel where, oh god. It's hard to explain because, this book plays in the same world as another trilogy that we have read previously called the Shades of Magic trilogy by the same author, obviously. This book is now the first one of a new trilogy featuring some of the same characters in the same universe 7 years after the events of the previous trilogy. And right now, at least this chapter seems to focus on the backstory of one of those characters which is one of the new characters that showed up in this book. And basically, to kind of sum up what this world is about, is there used to be there's like 4 different kind of like dimensions in a way, 4 different worlds, and they all have a city in there called London. And they used to all be connected. But at some point, one of those worlds got like too consumed by magic and basically burned by magic. So they ended up sealing all the different Londons from each other. So nobody can travel between them anymore. Everybody's stuck in their own. And they all have like a little bit of a different trait to them where like, and they're like, they separate them by color. So the one that was like fully burned and basically completely sealed off, nobody can enter, is Black London. Then there is Grey London, which forgive I get no, you're fine. Grey London is a world where the magic has been lost as well. People don't have magic. There's no magic in this world. They're just ordinary people. White London was struggling with magic. They still had it, but it was depleting, and they were clinging onto it as best as they can. Power rules over everything. Kind of like a very ruthless world to live in. And then Red London, which is when magic flourishes. Everything is great. Everything is creative with magic. Everything has magic inside of it. And right now we are actually in Red London. But there are still certain magicians that have very special powers that are very, very rare. They actually have the ability to travel between these Londons. And in the first trilogy, we were following one of these magicians and him having a habit of like trying to smuggle objects between the worlds and somehow ending up with a relic from Black London that almost actually completely destroyed Red London. Somewhat of a backstory for whatever is happening right now. We're like 7 years after the events where they were able to save the world, and now they're all like doing other things. There's a new threat that is coming along right now, but we're not too familiar yet with what is actually going on. But already I also hate the father of those girls, because he's all about just, what are they worth? Can I make money with them? I have to shop with very rare things. My daughters have to be rare. They have to be valuable. I can make money. I hate him. Okay. So Servals grew in loose, dark waves and were somehow always rested into a plate, sleek and groomed. Marines were sun-kissed rings, never bound up but left to fall in a shining mane. Rosanna's curls were cut short, a halo of warm brown wisps that fit beneath her many performers' wigs. And then there was Thessaly, whose curls were wild, unruly, a thicket of ever-escaping weeds. She had done her best tonight to tie up the stubborn mass, wrangle it into a pleasing shape, but by the time the roast was cooked and served at midday, the glasses filled with strong southern wine, of which even Thessaly was allowed to pour, though she didn't like the taste, or the way it made her head feel large and small at once. She could feel the tendrils coming free. Her mother beamed at them, glad to have her family home and whole. Her father smiled too, glad to see the sum of his work. Then Esna cleared the plates, and it was time for gifts. Thessaly clutched hers beneath the table, waiting her turn. It was wrapped in a gauzy scarf and bound with a ribbon. It had taken her all afternoon from the second she'd come home to the time she'd been called downstairs for dinner, but she'd done it. Her knees bobbed anxiously as Rosanna went first, holding out an envelope sealed with dark wax. Their father reached for it, but before he could, she conjured a delicate flame that burned away the envelope in a flash of red sparks and melted the wax, revealing the contents. An invitation. To a performance, she said, in your honor. Their father smiled, lips pressed tight as he took the slip. It was a fine gift, but he clearly expected more. Rosanna saw it too and looked down, her face reddening. If only the Essentage hadn't been cancelled, thought Thessaly, Rosanna would have to find another way to shine. See? Like, what the fuck? She's giving him an invitation to a show specifically made in his honor, and he's like, I expected more. What the fuck? Marine stepped into the silence, a cat's smirk on her lovely face. My gift, she said, holding no obvious present, until her delicate fingers dropped to the front of her dress. So you will have to wait to hold it. Their mother gave a cry of delight, and her father's smile split open, showing teeth. And as Marine rambled on about birth dates and names, happiness turning her cheeks pink, Rosanna and Thessaly shared an exasperated look, knowing that neither could compete with a grandchild. For it was, as always, a competition. Only Serval seemed untroubled, clearly confident in her own gift, and that made Thessaly nervous and bold, enough to throw herself in front of her oldest sister, not wanting to be in her wake. Father, she said, offering the bundle, my gift to you. Thessaly held her breath as he took the parcel, peeled apart the makeshift wrapping to reveal the summer glass. When the surface of the orb met his skin, it came to life, a small tree in the fullness of bloom at its center. Thessaly smiled, knowing she hadn't just fixed the summer glass, she had made it better. When she was mending the broken threads, she saw a way to twist them, change their path, so that when her father held the glass, he not only saw the taste of summer trapped within, but felt it. Felt the warmth of the sun on his skin as if he were standing beneath that tree. Her father, who was always complaining of the chill that autumn brought, whose hands ached with the encroaching cold. Something crossed her father's face then, an expression she'd seen so rarely, shadowing him in the shop. Surprise, and with it, an almost childish delight. Marvelous, he murmured, and Thessaly felt like she was standing beside him in the glass, soaking up the summer sun. Marine and Rosanna chirped their approval, but Serval's expression had gone shrewd. Where did you get that? She asked, and the question drew their father out of his reverie, his attention narrowing too. Thessaly knew when to lie and when to shield herself in truth. From the dog market, she said. How did you pay for it? Demanded her sister. It was damaged, she said, so the sailor sold it cheap, but I'm rather good at fixing things. She registered the weight of her mother's gaze, but she looked only at her father as she said, I have learned from watching you. It was the right thing to say. She watched as the flattery smoothed her father's feathers. Serval's gaze lingered, but it was her turn now. Father, she said, producing a small wooden box and sliding it toward him. Her hands, as always, were hidden beneath a pair of black gloves. An affect, Mirren called it, to make her seem imposing. The table went quiet as Fortin Ranek set the summer glass aside, the sunlit tree vanishing with his touch, and lifted the lid of the box, withdrawing a narrow vial. Not glass, but gold. His brow furrowed. What is this? He asked. And that itself should have been a warning, for their father was a collector and knew almost all treasures by sight, his keen eyes registering worth the way hers did magic. But Thessaly saw what he could not. She saw the tendril of light that twisted not around the narrow vial, but inside it, coiled like a small snake, pitch black and yet glowing. It made her shiver. What do you give the man who has everything? Asked Serval, as if it were a riddle. And then, when no one answered, she did. She did. Time. She pointed to the vial. That is 5 years. 5 years? He echoed, a question in his voice. Serval smiled then. Of life. If a wind had blown through the doused candle and doused every candle, the room would not have felt darker. What have you done? Demanded their father. Serval actually laughed. It had all the warmth of a hail on glass. I've not killed anyone, if that's what you're asking. She took up her goblet, gloved fingers pinching the stem. I have yet to board the Ferrastrasse, she said, but I have heard the captain deals in years instead of coin. Time is such a treasured currency. She quirked a brow. Are you not happy with your gift? He put the vial back in the box. That is forbidden magic. It is only forbidden if taken by force, and it was not. It was made in payment. For what? The air in the room had drawn taut as rope. Serval met her father's gaze. That is my business, not yours. Her mother's chair scraped as she stood. This isn't a topic fit for dinner. Is it not? Said Serval, amused. It is your birthday, father. 50 years. Who knows how many more? Rosanna sucked in a breath. Marine bit the inside of her cheek. Tessali looked on in horror. All waited for something to break. Instead, Fortin Reneg rose and ordered Serval into his office, taking the vial in its box and as he stormed out of the room. She followed, and her mother vanished into the kitchen to help Esna, leaving the 3 remaining sisters at the table dotted by empty chairs. Tessali stared at the summer glass which sat abandoned by her father's place. Anesh, said Rosanna, taking up her wine. She was only 16, but she had the airs of someone twice her age. Why does she do it? Asked Marine, rubbing her stomach, as if to soothe the life within. Fade our father or deal in dangerous things? Both. Does she? Asked Tessali. The sisters noticed her, which they rarely did, so she went on. Does she actually trade in forbidden magic? No, said Rosanna at the same time Marine said yes. The two shot each other a look, but Marine leaned forward with a grin. I heard she has a compass that points toward powerful things. Father gave it to her himself. Don't be silly, said Rosanna. If father had a compass like that, he'd keep it for himself. A sigh. Then, as she couldn't help herself, Serval doesn't need a compass. She has a gift for finding things. A gift? Asked Tessali as her sister's magic swirled in the air. Could Serval have her own kind of sight? Why do you think she wears those gloves? Asked Rosanna. Because it's pretentious, offered Marine with a snort. Rosanna pursed her lips. She told me once she could know a thing's worth just by touching it. What a crock of shit, said Marine, turning to Tessali. What I know is, there's rare and there's forbidden, and there's whatever Serval deals in. Sacrificial magic, possession. Father wouldn't let her, said Rosanna. Father couldn't stop her, countered Marine. I heard she auctioned an Antari eye at Sasson Roach. They don't rot when the person dies, she added, plucking a grape from the center of the table. Just turn to stone, and if you have one, no one can kill you. You sound like a child telling tales, chided Rosanna. The point is, Marine went on, our sister is a hunter. She enjoys the chase as much as... But she cut off as their mother appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands, a look of warning in her eyes. If you're determined to gossip like hens, do it somewhere else. Sorry, Mother, said Rosanna. We're just going out, said Marine, to get some air. Thessaly stood with them, but they shot her a look that said wherever they were going, she wasn't invited. That was fine. For once, she didn't even feel left out. She slipped away down the hall and into her room, shutting the door behind her. The small bone owl sat waiting on her bed. Hello, she said, running her finger down the curve of its skull. It didn't move, of course. There was no magic threaded through the bones. Not yet. That's part 3. We have almost 15 pages left for today. Okay, let's move on to part 4. Thessaly was good at mending a thing when the pieces of the spell were there, but she had never created one from scratch before. And yet, she told herself she was not so much creating as recreating. She called to mind every thread that wove through the glorious bird in her father's shop below, the way they twisted, they twined, the pattern and the flow. A shelf ran along one wall of her room, and it was home to her own small collection. A dozen different charms, some gifts from her parents and siblings, others tokens brought for spare change at the dock market. Now she inspected them, plucking away the threads she needed one by one, sacrificing the spellwork from the raw material. The threads sang faintly in her hands, shuddering like moth wings, delicate, brittle, but she managed to wrap each one around the owl's small skeleton, anchoring the magic to its skull, its wings, its feet. And there, sitting cross-legged on her bedroom floor, Thessaly began to weave. Even as the spell took shape beneath her hands, she feared it wouldn't work. Certain there must be more to magic, a threshold she couldn't cross. She told herself she was just a girl playing a game, imitating the real thing. But then, as she knotted off one of the threads, the owl lurched, a ripple of motion that ran through its bones and made her heart leap into her throat. She worked faster then, as if the spell were a fragile candle flame, one that might gutter and die if she let out a breath. It didn't. In fact, it came together, settling over the owl like a net. Soon, it ruffled its bone wings. It clicked its bone beak. It lifted its bone skull and seemed to stare at her through empty sockets. Time fell away as Thessaly worked. Her senses narrowed to the little owl and nothing else. Not the murmurs of the house, not the motion of the door swinging open. Kersla? Thessaly jerked, pulling her hands away as if burned. Serval was leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes narrow to hawkish points. Kersla, Rizal. Rizal. Little Rabbit. She hated that nickname, and her sisters knew it, so of course, Serval refused to call her anything else. When she didn't answer, her sister took a step into the room. Her feet were bare, but her heels still managed to click against the wood. What do you have there? She asked. And in that moment, Thessaly made a terrible mistake. She should have stared blandly up, made nothing of it. Instead, she flung her skirts over the little owl. It was an instinct, born of being the youngest sibling, but she might as well have confessed to a crime. Serval didn't rush forward. She simply continued. 3 slow steps until she was there, standing over Thessaly, and then she knelt. Serval wore trousers, not skirts, so nothing but her shadow pooled around her feet. Show me, she said, the words like a hand on the back of her neck, and Thessaly knew that if she refused, there would be a struggle, and she would lose. She knew because she was stubborn and had done it 100 times, and it had never gone her way. Still, she was tempted, the denial on her lips. But what scared her off was the wicked smile on her sister's face, which seemed to say, "Go on, little rabbit, try and run." Yo. That's scary. Thessaly drew the skirts away from the owl. "What a morbid little pet," tutted Serval, amused. She reached out and tapped a gloved finger on the bird's beak. Thessaly held her breath. So long as the owl didn't move, she could pass it off as just another piece of fancy, another ornament for her cluttered room. Then Serval said, "Are you that lonely, little rabbit?" And the owl twitched to life and looked up, because of course she had made it that way, designed it to react to the uptick in a voice, the sense of being asked a question, so you could talk to it. It had been a novel idea. Now she cursed it. Serval's eyes narrowed, the humor vanishing from her face, replaced by something sharp and shrewd. They had all grown up with the glorious bird, of course, and knew how rare the spell work was. "Now that," she said, reaching for the owl, "is a pretty piece of magic." Thessaly lunged, but her sister was faster. She plucked up the little bird in one gloved hand and turned it over, studying the bones and the silver thread that jointed them. Thessaly knew that she was searching for the marks of a spell, the articulation of magic, knew she wouldn't find them. The owl ruffled and twitched in Serval's fingers as if trying to get free. "Give it back," she said, but her sister's grip only tightened. "You could never afford a thing like this," she said, "which means you stole it. A summer glass too." "I didn't," gasped Thessaly, insulted. "Don't lie," warned Serval, squeezing the owl. She would crush it and all her hard work with it. And in that moment, Thessaly didn't care about the magic that she could redo, but the dead little owl seemed so alive. She had brought it to a kind of life, and it writhed and opened its beak in a silent plea, and "I made it!" The words were out, and for the briefest moment she was proud of the surprise they triggered in her sister's face. And then Serval's eyes narrowed just like her father's, and she wished she could take it back. "What do you mean?" she asked calmly, but Thessaly had recovered her senses enough to hold her tongue. Serval looked down at the owl. "Perhaps if I smash it," she ventured as if to herself. "You did say you had a knack for fixing broken things." Serval raised the little owl over her head. "I'd like to see how you—" "Don't!" pleaded Thessaly, as another voice cut through the house, unencumbered by walls and doors. "Serval!" called their father. Her sister hesitated, but even she knew better than to ignore a summons. Slowly, almost gently, she returned the owl to the floor between them and rose to her feet. "We'll talk about this in the morning," she said, as if this were just a bedtime story or a bit of gossip, something that would keep. "Sleep well, little rabbit." Thessaly swept the owl into her arms and pressed it to her front. She sat, shaking, on her bedroom floor as the door swung shut. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the little owl. "I'm sorry." She knelt there, mind spinning over what she'd done, what she'd said, as she listened to the sound of her sister's retreating steps, heard her father's join them, followed by the creak of stairs as they went down into the shop below. And then she was on her feet, sprinting into the hall. Tess had always been mature for her age, independent to a fault, but in that moment, she wanted her mother, wanted to feel her soothing touch and hear her say that it would all be all right, that it was bound to come out sooner or later, that she had only needed to hide the talent when she was little. But as she stood in her mother's room and showed her the owl and told her that Serval had seen, her mother's face lost all its color. And when Thessaly was gone, she did not tell her daughter. When Thessaly was done, she did not tell her daughter it would be all right. Did not say they'd find a way, that Serval would never do her youngest sister harm. No, she turned and went to her dresser. Where's Serval now? In the shop with father. The mother nodded and pulled on the pouch. Good, she said, pressing the pouch into her hands. It was heavy with coins. You must go. Thessaly stared down at the money. She didn't understand. Go? She was 12 years old. This was her home. A cloak settled over her shoulders. Quick fingers tied the laces at her throat. She found herself saying all the things she'd come to hear. It will be all right. I'll say I stole the bird. We will think of something. Look at me, said her mother, gripping her arms. And when she did, there was fear in her mother's eyes. Her mother, who mourned each daughter's absence like a death, who longed to have them all home. Her mother, who often joked that at least she had Thessaly, would always have Thessaly. I won't do it again, she said. But it was a lie, and they both knew it. When you had a power, not using it was like trying to hold your breath underwater. Sooner or later, something made you come up for air. Thessaly didn't know she'd been crying until her mother smoothed the tears from her cheek. There was pain in her mother's face, but not surprise. And Thessaly realized she'd been waiting for this day, had known it would come. Her mother kissed her forehead and pulled her close and whispered into the wild of her hair. Power is yours. Let no one else claim it. And then she pulled back, taking the warmth with her. Now go. For once, Thessaly did as she was told. The house was quiet, save for Esna, humming softly in the kitchen. Thessaly crept past, down the stairs into the front door where the shoes were left. She started for a soft-soled shoe, slippers, and then stopped and changed course. She almost took Serval's. They were leather with laces that wound like corset bindings up in the front, and toes capped in silver, but didn't, in case her sister might use the boots to track her. In the end, Thessaly reached for Esna's sturdy boots instead, peeled off her socks and pushed them into the shoes to make them fit. And then she opened the door and crept out, past the house and the windows of her father's shop before taking off down the street. Poor girl, man. Her mother knows that if that gift comes to she knows, like, if her father or any of her sisters will know about this gift, she will not have her own free will anymore, because they all want to get a piece of that power, because this family is fucking ridiculous. She needs to get the fuck out. I mean, we already know she does, because this is a flashback towards the end of the book. We already know what she's up to now, which is kind of fucking crazy. But yeah, because she fixed a device that can make a portal between worlds and ended up in Grey London. She's currently in a different London, but yeah. She's fine. Almost got hunted down by some like crooks, but yeah, she's fine. Almost killed, had to blow up her own shop, but she's fine. Part 5. Go, her mother had said. Perhaps she should have asked how far. Perhaps she should have asked, how long should I hide? But she hadn't. Afraid the answers would be like rocks in her pockets, weighing her down until she couldn't move. Thessaly kept the owl pressed to her chest as her stolen boots sounded on the stone floor. It was almost dark when she reached the docks. The sun was gone, but not gone out, the waning light hugging the horizon, turning the ships there to shadows. But in Thessaly's eyes, the world was always bright. The dock market was shuttered for the day. The stalls collapsed, sailors now loading whatever they'd failed to sell back onto their ships. The vessels looked like birds, some readying for flight, others pulling in their wings, bedding down for the night. She found the sailor at the far end of the docks, hefting a crate of unsold things toward the narrow ship. The silver tokens in his hair caught the last of the sun. The pale blue of his magic shone on the air. You again, he said as she ran up, dragging to a breathless stop. Her cheeks were flushed, her curls escaping. She must have looked as wild as she felt, because he glanced over her shoulder to see if she was being chased. Are you in some trouble? Yes. Then take it somewhere else, he said, turning away. No. Her eyes darted to the ship. Is that yours? He grunted, a sound that could have been either yes or no, save for the fact that he was in the process of carrying a crate up the ramp. She followed in his wake, but he stopped at the top and turned, blocking her way. Go on. Don't need you tracking mud on my deck. Go on. Don't need you tracking mud on my deck. She looked down at her boots before realizing it was a turn of phrase. Please, she started. It's a nice word of fine company, he said, jerking his head toward Hanaz. Now go home. It's past your bedtime, little lady. Thessaly bristled. I can pay, she said, feeling the weight of the coins in her pocket. Not enough for the trouble, said the sailor. Her eyes dropped to the crate in his arms. You won't get much for broken magic. He cocked a brow. Insulting my wares now. But you could, she continued, if it was fixed. What are you worth? Her father asked. She was about to find out. I can fix broken things, she said. Sometimes. I can even make them better. She opened her cloak, revealing the little owl he'd sold her earlier that day. What do you think? She asked. And before you could say that it looked the same, the owl twitched in answer to the question and tucked its head under one wing. Okay, we're back. Welcome back from the ads, Rose. Then answered a question and tucked its head under one wing and began to preen the place where its feathers would be. The sailor jumped and then let out a barking laugh that caught her off guard. It was rich and full and delighted. I'll be your priest, he swore. She tucked the skeleton away. I have a knack, she said. I can see that. If you take me wherever you're going, I'll fix everything you couldn't sell. He studied her. What is your name? He asked, and she almost told him, but then she stopped. Names had value, and her father taught her never to give a thing away for less than it was worth, especially something you couldn't buy back. She thought of giving him Serval's name, but the idea left a bitter taste in her mouth, and she knew it would make her jump every time he said it. So in the end, she bit off the first part of her own and gave him that. It's Tess. Well, Tess, he said, setting down the crate and holding out his hand. You have a deal. They shook on it, her hand swallowed up in his as he drew her aboard the ship. His name, she soon learned, was Elric. His ship was the Foul Cast, the Good Luck. "Where's the crew?" she asked, and he spread his arms as if to say me, but also perhaps to say us. "She's light and sweet," he said, patting the hull. "And she gets jealous easily. But you're small enough. I hope she won't be cross to try to drown you." She had a way of flattening his tone when he spoke, which made it impossible to tell if he was joking. She would learn that while Elric was a sailor now, he'd been a sailor first. He'd been a soldier first, which had given him a very dry humor. Soon the ship was free of its mooring. It pulled away from the dock, away from Hanas, and Tess stood on the bow and watched the port city drift out of reach. Elric stood on the other side of the narrow ship, his magic bright as he guided the Good Luck forward through the current, one hand held over the water. In his other hand, he held a small stone. It wasn't spelled, she could tell, not to amplify his magic or focus his mind, but he turned it over and over, its surface long worn smooth, when he caught her looking and said, "It's always good to have a bit of land on hand when you're at sea. Keeps you grounded." Tess thought about that as she turned her gaze back to the retreating coast. Night fell like a shroud, and soon only the lanterns and the lights in the houses traced the shape of the place she had lived all her life. She held up her hand, and the whole port city seemed to fit there in her palm, and then on the tip of her finger, and then gone. As Hanas disappeared and the sea stretched out like a sheet in every direction, the world felt suddenly very, very large. Her heart began to race and she sucked in, filling her lungs with air. She was alone, and though she was frightened, for the first time in years, she was also free. That night, when the Good Luck found its current, Elric gave her a blanket and a corner of the cabin floor, and she curled up with the little owl and let the ship rock her to sleep. Water below the boat had come alive. The currents on the open sea had shown a low and steady blue, but since they passed the port, treading the ocean for the waterway that would carry them inland, the water had been changing colors. Now it glowed an eerie red, shot through with threads of crimson light. Amazing, isn't it? His head jerked up. Elric was leaning over the side now too, staring down at the current. "You can see it?" "Well, I'm not blind, so yes. I can see the light of the Isle. As can everyone, from Tanek on." Tess marveled at the idea of a magic others could see. Elric was no longer watching the water. He stared at her, turning a question over in his cheek. This time, he seemed about to give it voice, but at the last, he swallowed it, turned his gaze back to the river. Since picking her up in Hanas 2 nights before, he hadn't asked a single question. Not about who she'd been, or what she was running from. Not when she fixed each and every object in his crate. Not even when he came into the cabin once and caught her adjusting the threads around the little owl, her fingers hooking through what must have looked like empty air. "Your business," he'd said, turning on his heel and walking out again. Now they stood side by side, leaning over the rail as the color deepened in the water below. "They say it is a source," explained Elric, "a place where magic runs so strong the naked eye can see it." Naked eye, she thought as she nodded at the prow. "It will only get brighter as we near London." London. She knew of the Arnesian capital, of course, but back in Hanas, it had felt like the stuff of stories. A city so big you couldn't see its edges, the jewel of the empire overflowing with magic. Rosanna had once gifted their mother an illustration of the royal palace, which had supposedly been built on a bridge over the Isle, though that seemed a ridiculous place for a castle. Or so she thought, until she saw it. Soon, the river widened into a crimson thoroughfare, crowded with ships, and on either bank the buildings rose. So many and so close she couldn't see the streets between, and Tez finally had to close her eyes against the shine and tangle of so many burning strings. Beyond her lids, a shadow as she felt them pass beneath a bridge, the brief dark like a cool compress, and then the light was there again, and Elric telling her to look. When she opened her eyes, she saw the Solna Rast, the city's beating heart. The palace vaulted over the Crimson River, its spires pricking the sky and the sun turning them to flame. The docks were crowded with all manner of boats, from small skiffs to massive ships with more masts than the good luck had sails. Boats with spellwork carved into the holds and streaked like paint along their prows. Everywhere she looked, she saw the lines of magic, an almost blinding tapestry of threads. Her spirit sank a little when she scanned the docks and saw no market, no makeshift stalls. "This city has 100 markets," said Elric at her side. "You will find them all." She threw a mooring rope down to a waiting dockhand, and Elric laid the ramp. "There you are," he said, as if he'd simply given her a lift from one port to another, as if he hadn't saved her, set her free. Her burrowed boots sounded as she crossed the deck, the coin pouch in one pocket and the owl tucked beneath her arm. She felt too light, as if she'd forgotten something instead of leaving it behind on purpose. And she set off the ramp, but Elric caught her arm. "Wait." If in that moment the sailor had invited her to stay aboard, she might have said yes, but he didn't. Instead, he took her hand and placed a small dark stone inside it, the one he held on as he guided the ship. He curled her fingers around it. "To ground you," he said, "whenever you're at sea." She held fast to the little stone as she descended the ramp and crossed the dock. Held fast as she reached the steps that led up to the street into the vast and vibrant city. Held fast as she plunged into the rippling current of light and motion, and knew that no matter what, she would find her way. And with that, we're done with the chapter for today. That was chapter 8. So it was a backstory chapter. Okay. Nothing like new when it comes to what's currently going on, but it's nice to learn more about one of the new, presumably more main characters of this book. Tess is gonna have a big role, I feel like. And it's gonna be great to see where that's going. I'm looking forward to the other books at some point, because this book came out last year. I don't think the second and third book of this new trilogy are out yet, so we might have to wait a couple of months before the next book comes out, before we can dive back into this world once we're done with this, which is kind of sad because I really, really like this universe and the characters. We gotta be patient. We gotta wait. But yeah, here are the other 3 books of that series: Darker Shade of Magic, Gathering of Shadows, and A Conjuring of Light. All fantastic books on their own as well. We all read them as well on stream before. Great books. What's patience? Right. I can be pretty patient, but when it comes to stuff that I really like, it's also hard for me to be patient. You know I can't be patient with people. At least. Crystal knows I'm always very patient with her. But now I have to change some things around here. It's easy to be patient with Crystal. That is true. She's lovely. I think it's true. Crystal, I think it's true. No issues with it? Give me a second, guys. Go. Yeah, this whole part to the end of the reading, yeah. So this whole part that we just had will be uploaded to YouTube as well. I need to make a command for it at some point as well, but earlier in the chat it does say here. So since YouTube, since Twitch at some point decided, hey, we're gonna implement a limit of how many hours of footage you can have saved on your website, on your page, on like highlights and stuff. And I always made the reading parts highlights for people to always be able to catch up on things. Like, especially especially for you right now, Rose, coming in at like 8th book, more than halfway through, like, especially in the series of a book, it's gonna be hard to really catch up in a way. So I always try to make every previous reading stream available for people to rewatch or revisit if they want to catch up and want to know more about what has been happening in the books and the franchises, whatever. But or like me, just listen to the voice. Yeah, Crystal barely pays attention to me. She just likes my voice. But since Twitch implemented that limit and we already were all over the limit like a few months ago, I had to migrate all of those videos onto a separate YouTube channel. So every book we've ever read, all other 8 books, and the first 7 chapters of this current book are all available on YouTube. If you ever want to get into the series, learn more about it, and really get to know the characters and the stories, they're all available on YouTube and separate playlists. All the books are separated in playlists to make it easier to find everything. And all 7 books are available there. I'll probably be uploading the reading part of today, maybe tomorrow, sometime this week, definitely before the next reading stream. Tomorrow, maybe not, because I'm gonna be very busy tomorrow, so we'll see what I can do. But yeah, every previous book we've ever read is available on YouTube, which right now Let me check. We have 37 videos on that channel. 37 videos. Oh, well, I don't know why it's being so weird. There we go. Just turn on the webcam here. Yeah, all the previous books. It's nice to have them all available. Now that the reading is over, what now, huh, Crystal? Is there something you want me to do? Why? My bad. It sounds the same. My voice doesn't change. I just talk in a language you guys can't understand. Nothing else changes. But it's amazing. Damn, hitting me with the German, huh? I see, I see. Imagine being smart enough to talk in two languages. Couldn't be me. Yeah, me neither. She's studying German. Oh my. Oh my god. Don't know a ton, but I'm studying hard. Hey, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. So the funny thing is, like I said, I am from Germany. I live in Germany. I went to like school normally and all that. English was a mandatory subject for me. I've had English in school since 3rd grade and it was mandatory. I was no way around it. And I mean, I love it. I've had basically like English in school for 10 years and all that. I've always had better grades in English than I had in German. So the grading system in Germany works where it goes from 1 through 6. 1 being best, 6 being worst. And then obviously like in between all that stuff, like 2 is like pretty good, but not the best, all that stuff. My English grades were always 1s and 2s. My German grades were always 3s and 4s, maybe sometimes even a 5. Like my German was shit. My German in school was dog shit. It was even to the point, it's crazy, I know, right? It was to the point, like, I was a pretty smart kid in secondary school, especially in maths. I hated